Hey folks, Professor Finn here, and we're going to continue our study of pathology by diving into the next chapter, chapter 13, of Pathology and Microbiology for Mortuary Science students by Mullins. But before we do that, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, share this video with a friend, let them know that the lectures are out there. So let's go ahead and get the presentation up and talk about diseases of the nervous system. So first up, we have meningitis, also known as spinal meningitis, which is an infection of the cerebrospinal fluid. Causes of meningitis include viruses and bacteria, with viral being less severe. Prior to the 1990s, Haemophilus influenzae was the causative agent most common with meningitis. After that, really Streptococcus pneumonia and Neisseria gonorrhea are more common today. Fungal meningitis is also a thing. It is very rare, and it is known as cryptococcal meningitis. Signs and symptoms of meningitis include stiff neck, headache, high fever, nausea, vomiting, discomfort under bright lights, confusion, and sleepiness. Complications for meningitis really are about seizures, sudden uncontrolled discharges of electrical activity in the brain, which may result in convulsion, immediate unconsciousness, or immobility. And meningitis is typically very contagious. Treatments to meningitis are antibiotics. Obviously, if you have cryptococcal meningitis, meningitis based off of a fungus, you would probably be using a fungicide. Hydrocephalus is a degenerative disorder of the nervous system, is a condition in which cerebrospinal fluid fails to be properly drained or absorbed, causing the ventricles of the brain to fill with cerebrospinal fluid. Causes of hydrocephalus include developmental anomalies, infection, injury, and brain tumors. Complications include severe disfigurement of the head and distension because cranial sutures have not yet formed, so obviously pressure on the brain can cause all sorts of problems. Treatment is usually surgery to implant a drain. End result can be severe mental problems as a result of hydrocephalus, including death if hydrocephalus is not treated. Encephalitis is inflammation of the brain. It refers to an infection of the brain caused by a virus. And there are two forms of encephalitis, primary and secondary. Primary encephalitis occurs when the virus invades the brain and spinal cord and the infection starts there. And then secondary or post-infectious encephalitis is when the virus invades another part of the body and then migrates into the brain. So almost all diseases, primary is where the disease originates. Secondary is the result of a different infection that originated somewhere else in the body. There are three broad categories of viruses that cause encephalitis. The first is herpes virus, and herpes simplex 1 is the more causative agent than herpes simplex 2. Varicella zoster, which causes chickenpox and shingles. This is typically a childhood infection, but can occur in adults, which is why we have shingles. And finally, we have arboviruses, the causative agent of mononucleosis or Epstein-Barr. Signs and symptoms of encephalitis can include drowsiness, confusion, seizures, fever, headache, nausea, vomiting, convulsions, which are abnormal, violent, and involuntary contraction or series of contractions of the muscles. Be very careful not to confuse convulsions with seizures. Seizures can cause convulsions. The seizure is the electrical discharge in the brain. The convulsion is the involuntary contraction of the muscles themselves, as well as tremors. Finally, some cases of encephalitis are asymptomatic with no symptoms evidencing. Complications of encephalitis are potentially fatal. If untreated, herpes simplex infections are fatal between 60 to 80% of the time. So a very common virus, easily treatable. You want to treat encephalitis with some level of seriousness. Myelitis, inflammation of the spinal cord resulting from an infection in the spinal cord, or a non-infectious necrotizing of the spinal cord, or demyelization of the spinal cord. Transverse myelitis is a form of myelitis, which is an inflammatory disorder of the spinal cord due to myelization, a loss of fatty tissue that surrounds the nerves. So, what are causes of myelitis? Viral infections, spinal cord injuries, immune reactions, insufficient blood flow, and complications of multiple sclerosis, smallpox, measles, or chickenpox. Signs and symptoms of myelitis can include flaccid limb paralysis, incontinence, weakness or numbness of the limbs. Transverse myelitis can have an acute onset. Low back pain, spinal cord dysfunction, muscle spasms, headache, loss of appetite, and numbness and tingling in the legs. Complications of myelitis, well, there's no cure for it. Individuals usually encounter severe disability, and treatment is none. You simply have to accommodate symptoms. Neuritis is inflammation of a nerve or nerves. Its causes can be trauma, infection, or poison. Infection can either be primary or direct, which the infection occurs right at the nerve, or it is a secondary infection as a result of tuberculosis, tetanus, or measles. And while neuritis can come about as a result of poison, that is usually very rare. Epilepsy is a recurrent degenerative disorder of the nervous system marked by repetitive abnormal electrical discharges within the brain known as seizures. Signs and symptoms of epilepsy include sudden convulsions, sudden seizures, and altered consciousness. There are two types of seizures involved with epilepsy, grand mal and petit mal. So with grand mal, you have fecal and urinary incontinence, uncontrolled contraction of the muscles of the extremities, loss of consciousness, cries caused by contraction of the respiratory muscles forcing exhalation. With petit mal, the individual basically zones out. Individual ceases activities for a few seconds, and this is more common in children. There's also something called television epilepsy. The attacks occur while watching television or playing video games. It is assumed due to the horizontal and vertical lines of the TV rather than the flickering, is what the trigger for this is. Epilepsy is typically treated by medication. In some very hardcore versions of epilepsy, there may be surgical intervention. Rabies or hydrophobia, this is an infection that affects the nervous system. Pet owners fear this disease because it affects their pets. Rabies is transmitted through the bite from contaminated animals. Signs and symptoms of rabies include salivation during advanced rabies infection, and the sound of running water is known to cause convulsions. If left untreated, it can be fatal, and rabies can cause complete paralysis. There is a vaccination for prevention, and there is no treatment for established rabies. Multiple sclerosis is an inflammatory disease of the central nervous system. The cause of multiple sclerosis is when lymphocytes infiltrate and degrade the myelin sheath of nerves due to possible viral infection. There is no cure. Medication is to treat symptoms. Parkinson's disease is a chronic nervous disease characterized by a fine, slowly spreading tremor, muscular weakness and rigidity, and a peculiar gait. It is caused by diminished levels of dopamine in the brain. Signs and symptoms of Parkinson's include expressionless face, speech impairment, bowed head, forward bend to the body, thumb turned inward towards palm, and flexed arms as muscles become rigid. Recovery rarely occurs in Parkinson's. Alzheimer's disease is a condition of deteriorated mental ability accompanied by emotional instability. It is idiopathic. We do not know what causes it. It is a common form of dementia in older people in the United States. The cause of this is amyloid plaques and neurofibrillary tangles in the brain, which when we are diagnosing Alzheimer's, this is typically a result of brain removal and inspection, and they determine the amyloid plaque. So what are signs and symptoms? There is memory impairment, deficits in reasoning, judgment, abstract thought, registration, comprehension, learning, task execution, and use of language. Complications of Alzheimer's. Late-stage Alzheimer's requires total care. Extreme demands of care may result in mixed emotions for the caregiver at time of death. And a feature of Alzheimer's is something called sundowning, which is confusion or disorientation that increases in the afternoon or evening. And there's no way of diagnosing Alzheimer's completely without an autopsy. They have to visually inspect the brain. There is no cure for Alzheimer's, although medicine can control some of the symptoms. Amyotrophic lateral sclerosis is a degeneration of specific nerve cells in the central nervous system that controls voluntary movement. Signs and symptoms of ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, is tripping and falling, loss of motor control in hands and arms, speech impairment, dysphagia, breathing impairment, persistent fatigue, and severe muscle twitching and cramping. ALS is a progressive disease and is usually fatal in 5 years from diagnosis, and there is no cure. Glioma is a malignant tumor of the glial cells and does not usually metastasize outside of the brain. Glioma has a high mortality rate, and it grows into surrounding brain tissue rather than encapsulating the tissue. Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease is a degenerative brain disease. There are 3 types: sporadic, hereditary, and acquired. The causative agent of Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease is prions. They are speculated to be the causative agent. So signs and symptoms of CJD is failing memory, behavioral changes, lack of coordination, visual disturbances, mental deterioration, involuntary movements, blindness, and coma. Once again, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease can only be confirmed by autopsy, and there is no cure for Creutzfeldt-Jakob. Embalming protocols are pretty strict on CJD. You should not have anything come into contact with the brain, spine, or cerebrospinal fluid. So arterial injection is typically okay, but be very careful when you are doing your trocar treatments. Cerebral palsy is a group of chronic disorders characterized by the impairment of control over movement. It appears in early life and does not progress. Causes are developmental anomalies, damage to areas of brain, jaundice, Rh incompatibility, and German measles. Signs and symptoms of cerebral palsy are difficulty with fine motor tasks, struggle to maintain balance and walk, lack full control of voluntary movements, seizures, and mental impairment. Symptoms differ according to individuals and may change over time, and there is no cure for cerebral palsy. Spina bifida is a congenital defect in which the spinal cord protrudes. It is also known as spina bifida cystica, and this disease is covered at length in another chapter, so we will not cover it again in depth here. Stroke, also known as apoplexy, transient ischemic attacks, and cerebrovascular accidents. Blood vessel bursts in the brain, causing a loss of blood flow to the tissues of the brain, resulting in death of the brain tissue. There are different types of stroke. First, we have ischemic stroke, which is a cerebral blood vessel becomes occluded, so you have a blockage in the blood vessel of the brain. You have hemorrhagic stroke, which is the blood vessel ruptures, so you have a brain bleed. And then you have a transient ischemic attack, which is the blood supply to the brain is briefly interrupted. Signs and symptoms of stroke include loss of motor control, loss of sensory perception, loss of speech, and loss of one side of the brain results in the opposite side of the body being affected. So if you have a stroke on the left-hand side of the brain, the right-hand side of your body is affected by that. Treatment for stroke is extensive therapy. Trauma of the nervous system. Traumatic injuries to the nervous system are a leading cause of death and long-term disability in the United States. Severe trauma to the brain need not be fatal. First, we have concussion, which is a traumatic injury to the head resulting in temporary loss of consciousness, paralysis, vomiting, and seizures. You have contusion, head injury of sufficient force to bruise the brain, which often involves the surface of the brain and can cause extravasation of blood without rupture of the meninges. Can occur at any point at which the brain is in contact with the skull, but most common in the frontal, temporal, and occipital lobes. Basically, you're always getting hit from the front, the immediate sides, or the back. Skull is often intact but can contain fractures. Site of contusion does not indicate the point of blunt force trauma. So, for instance, if you are hit from behind and your brain goes forward and hits the front of your skull, the trauma happened in the back, but the contusion happened up front. You can also have it at the same exact site. The site of the contusion is where something hit, but also, especially in motor vehicle accidents, whiplash can cause problems where you were not struck. Treatments. With concussion, recovery occurs in hours without permanent injury, with exception of memory loss surrounding the event. Hematoma. There are 4 types, and we'll start with an epidural hematoma or an extradural hematoma, which is a traumatic accumulation of blood between the skull and the dural membrane. It is frequently due to the rupture of the meningeal artery, often a result of a focused blow to the head, and brain is usually minimally injured and prognosis good if treated aggressively and promptly. Acute subdural hematoma, a rapidly clotting blood collection below the inner layer of the dura but external to the brain and arachnoid membrane. This is always a result of blunt force traumas to the head, such as whiplash or shaking of an infant. So acute subdural hematoma is always a result of trauma. Chronic subdural hematomas are a result of brain atrophy associated with nervous disorders. And finally, a subarachnoid hematoma, which is bleeding between the pia mater and the arachnoid membrane. So what are the postmortem conditions associated with nervous disorders? We have brain purge, hemorrhage, atrophy, and diminished circulation. Brain purge is not typically something that we can do a whole heck of a lot about. The way we would treat that, it would usually come out of the ears, it comes out of the nose, maybe even the eyes or other areas of trauma. You simply plug the holes as best as you can, treat with cavity fluid. If you have brain hemorrhage, that could lead to distribution issues. And if you start seeing pressure coming and pushing the eyes forward as a result of decomposition of the brain, as a result of inability of fluid to get in there and do its thing, you will more than likely have to go through the epiphyseal plate, ram trocar up there, drain, release pressure, inject cavity fluid, and then pack and seal the nasal area. Atrophy, that has to do with the limbs and the body. So you will need to take precautions as to the type of chemicals you're using in incision sites. And diminished circulation may require you to go into multi-point injection, stronger than average injections depending on what is going on in those different areas. That concludes the lecture for this time. Again, please like, share, subscribe, share this with a friend, drop something in the comments below, send me an email, let me know of some other subjects you'd like me to cover, and we will see you next lecture.